Hello my beautiful friends, it's Amanda here, and today we're going to talk about the ColourPop Element of Surprise palette. ColourPop has been killing it with these palettes. I've loved most of the ones that I've tried, so I will be swatching this one. I'll do a tutorial on the eye look I'm wearing today, and I'll give you my thoughts at the very end. Like the other 12 pan palettes that do not have a mirror, this palette retails for $16. It has 12 eyeshadow shades, 5 are mattes, 6 are shimmers, and 1 is a very glittery shade. The palette is made of a heavy duty cardboard and it does have a magnetic closure. There is no mirror inside this one. The shade names are printed on the back of the palette as well as on the back of the cardboard carton that the palette comes in. We're gonna get to the swatches now. I'm gonna do finger and brush swatches of each shade. The finger swatches will be on top and the brush swatches will be below. These swatches are just done on my bare skin, no primer or anything. For the brush swatches, I'll be using my e.l.f. flat eyeshadow brush, and I'll clean off in between each shade using my Mona color switch. Here's the top row of the palette. Finger swatches are on top and brush swatches are below. We have the shades Feels, Late Night, Silk Street, which is a matte, and Rayon. I think you can tell the brush swatches just really aren't that great for the shimmer shades. These really shimmery shades can be quite intense when applied with the finger, so I definitely recommend that if you have this palette with the shimmer shades, use your finger to apply them. The brush swatches just don't do them justice. This is the middle row from the palette. We have a light peachy matte shade called Go With The Flow. This one is Subdue. This hot pink is called Opulent. And lastly, another matte. This is Labyrinth. Again, the brush swatch just really not working out for these super shimmery shades. The matte shades look really nice though. This is the very bottom row of the palette. First up, we have 2 matte shades. This is Blank Canvas, and this is Sea Stars. Next, we have that matte with glitter shade called Details. And lastly, a shimmer called Peace of Mind. Now that you've seen the swatches, let's go ahead and get to the tutorial using this palette, and then I'll give you all my thoughts at the end. I'm priming my eyes with my MAC Paint Pot in the shade Painterly. This is my favorite eye base, and I'm just setting that with a little translucent setting powder to get started. Then I'm using the shade Labyrinth, and I'm gonna work that into my crease using a fluffy flat brush, just building that up all through the crease and a little bit on the outer part of my eye as well. I'm gonna use the shade Go With The Flow to blend out the upper part of that crease shade and make sure there's no harsh lines there. Then I'm using Silk Street. I didn't really like the way that this method turned out. I was going for a sort of faux smudgy purple liner, but it just ended up getting covered up by my next shade anyway. I used Rayon and I just applied that all over my lid with my finger, and I did really need to do 2 coats of this to get it to show up as brightly as I like. Then I used Details on a little tiny brush and just added a teeny tiny bit of that to the outer part of my eye for some depth. I went back to Labyrinth. This was my transition shade, and I'm just using that to blend into the crease again. And I also added some of that to the lower lash line. To add some brightness to this look, I first took the shade Subdue and I just used my finger to apply that to the inner 1/3 of my lid, and then I used Feels and again applied that with my finger to the very inner corner to finish off my eyeshadow. Curled my lashes and added some mascara, and that's the finished look. It's definitely different for me and I had a lot of fun making it. I feel like I've been saying this a lot in my palette reviews lately, but I have very mixed feelings about this Element of Surprise palette. A lot of the things that I don't like about this palette are kind of just personal preference things. I really like the colors of the packaging, but I just don't particularly love this packaging. I think a lot of their other palettes have been much cuter. Like I said, it's a personal preference thing. I really prefer the packaging design of You Had Me at Hello or I Think I Love You. As far as this packaging goes, I feel kind of the same way about this one as I did about the Yes Please palette, which was just Nah. However, the Yes Please palette I found to be a lot more useful and a lot more wearable. And this one is definitely a lot more surprising, a lot more kind of wacky and out there shade-wise. As far as quality of shadows goes in here, I think this palette is kind of hit or miss. In the past, I've been really happy with the performance of the mattes in these ColourPop palettes. And I have to say, I really like the way that 4 out of the 5 mattes in here work. The only one I wasn't happy with is this purple shade called Silk Street. This just wasn't quite as pigmented and it wasn't quite as blendable with a brush as the other mattes in this palette or other mattes in other ColourPop palettes. I'm also really not a fan of this shade called Details. This is the matte that has a bunch of micro glitter in it. I just don't like shades like this. Again, personal preference. I just don't like it. I don't get it. I don't want it. As far as shade selection goes, I am really excited by this palette. I realize that ColourPop is not gonna just make neutral palettes over and over again. And if they did, we would probably criticize them for that. I really appreciate that they're going for something different here. You're gonna be able to get a lot of different eye looks, and this could be a great companion palette if you have any of the more neutral ColourPop palettes. I do wanna mention, if you're thinking of picking this palette up, or if you have it, there are a couple shades in here that I think are more of topper shades or transformer shades, which means I think they're meant to be layered on top of another shadow and not necessarily just worn on their own. So Feels, Rayon, and Subdue are all shades that I think are meant to be worn more as toppers. They don't really have that intense pigmentation that the other ColourPop shimmers have in these palettes. And I really do think that's because they're meant to be paired with another shadow. So if you have this palette and you're like, oh, I don't like this shade, it's not pigmented, I think that's the reason. I really do think these are intended to be worn over another eyeshadow. All in all, I don't think this is a bad palette. I just don't think it's the right one for me. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. If you pick this up, does it sound like something you would love? Leave a comment and let us know. That's it for today's video. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye. I don't even care if I have to touch up my lip gloss. I need more caffeine. It's so dark outside and it's not even that late. It feels like 9 o'clock at night, but it's only 5. Winter, it's messing with my head. I don't want to make a video you don't want to watch. You know what I'm saying? I've done that plenty. It's not my favorite. Why don't you cry about it? Start anytime, because you have limitless amounts of time to finish this video. Just take your time, it's fine. Something else about this palette. Stacks up, shut. What? Let's do this. Get it? Because I'm surprised. Element of surprise. Just gonna forget, it's Tarte Glossy Lip Paint in Snap. Oh snap! It's not funny. Don't make jokes. You're bad at it. That's enough. That's enough of that. Bye-bye now. Bye-bye. Have a nice day. Bye-bye now.